Hi everyone, welcome to this edition of the Business Stories podcast. This is the place where we talk to business owners, entrepreneurs and leaders, and we discover their stories in business, how they've made their successes, their struggles and their journeys, and hopefully get some hints and tips along the way. Today's guest is Shani Moore from Couriers, award-winning courier business. She's the financial director. She's also director of post and packing in Swindon. We're going to find out more about her businesses in the interview. First of all, welcome along to the podcast, Shani.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
So the first thing I want to discuss, which we can't really ignore, very recent for you, you have bagged yourself the Female Entrepreneur of the Year about a month ago in the Southwest Business Awards. How does that feel?
In all honesty, I was shocked considering the amount of amazing other female entrepreneurs that were on the list. I really did think that on that occasion that I wouldn't be chosen. So to see my name come up on the screen was actually an utter shock.
And what does it mean to you to receive that award for the recognition that it comes with?
Considering all my struggles I've had in my growing up in my teenage years and school years, it just made me feel like that I have actually been recognised for all the hard work I've achieved.
What I want to do first of all is go back to the beginning of your story. So obviously you're based in Swindon in Wiltshire. This is where you've set up your business for the last few years. Where are your roots? Where did it all begin? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a little village called Cookham in Berkshire. We actually lived in what was at the time called mobile homes, they're now called park homes. I lived 16 years. My parents were both in the film industry. They both worked at Pinewood Studios. My dad was a chauffeur to all the stars. My mum, before she had children, was a PA to Charlie Chaplin.
And that's how they met, was it, through the film industry?
Yeah, that's how they met. My father was an extremely Cockney lad, couldn't speak proper English. My mum was quite well-to-do, even though she wasn't from a well-to-do family. She was obviously secretary and PA to a lot of the film directors at Pinewood Studios. And my dad was obviously the chauffeur, so he used to go and collect all the staff. This one morning he went to pick my mum up and his heart fell out of his chest and that was it. He was in love.
And the rest is history, as they say. It will be really interesting to find out just where did your journey in employment start? What did you do? Did you have any part-time jobs, or what did you do in the early days of your career?
My first job was when I was 11. I worked at cash and carry in Cookham, just stacking shelves. I did that for a year, and I used to work every Saturday and Sunday morning. And
then after you went in through school and further education and you came out the other side, what did you do in the early days of your working life?
I managed to get a job quite quickly, which was surprising. Within 4 weeks of leaving school, I managed to get a job as a data entry clerk. I think it was about 7 months later, the recession hit. So I obviously lost my job.
At what point did you get into business ownership or being self-employed? What sort of part of your life did you realise that you wanted to be a business owner, or how did that happen?
Probably stemmed from when I managed to become a manager at Ladbrokes. I went for just a fill-in job as a cashier. They saw my potential and they put me up the ranks quite quickly up to management. I was then running my own store for good 4 years. And that gave me management skills, accountancy skills, customer service skills, team leading skills. And the only reason why I left there was because I was pregnant with my first daughter.
And then how did that lead on to actually starting a business yourself or getting involved with being self-employed?
That was my husband. He's always had an entrepreneurial flair.
That would be me then.
That would be you. From the very early stages of our relationship and marriage, you've always been very much keen to run your own business, and I always encouraged you and always, try to push you to do things and get out your comfort zone. You had your Thames Valley Valeters, I think it was, you started off when you sold your car. I told you to sell your car and go and get a van and get out there and work.
And I do what I'm told.
You do what you're told, and you ended up making a real good success of that. You did really, really well. And then on top of that, alongside that, you then started Thames Auto Sales, which was the start of our 25 years together in used car sales.
Absolutely. So that was a long journey in the motor industry that we had. So your current business then, that your financial director is Couriers in the logistics industry. How long has that business been around? And more importantly, how did you end up from motor trade into logistics? How did that start?
I think with everything, sometimes you need a change or change of pace. We moved to Wiltshire because of my parents, because my poor dad was diagnosed with Lewy body dementia, and my mum obviously was not very well, and having to look after her husband was difficult, and I couldn't be in three places at once. So we made the decision to move away, find somewhere to live so I can have everyone under the same roof, so I could be a mum, a carer, and obviously a wife and a business owner. In the process, to earn some extra pennies and get me out the house, I ended up starting as a flex driver with Amazon. Just to earn some extra pennies, obviously for Christmas and stuff, just to obviously take the pressure off you. And then I've decided that I actually like delivering. I actually like being out in a car, listening to my radio. Then I decided to go all out and get myself my own van and become a delivery driver.
Did you end up from going from a van driver to running now a multi-million pound business in less than 4 years?
The support of you. You came out to me one day because you said, I'll drive, you deliver, just to help me get the route done quicker. Yeah, I managed to get the route done, and then you said that yourself. I quite enjoyed that. We just took it in turns to do alternate days. And then we had the opportunity for a programme with Amazon, 2.0 programme, in, I think, September 2019 we applied, which was our 25th wedding anniversary year. And the process was long. You did all the interviews. I didn't, because that's way beyond me. But I kept encouraging you and helping and supporting you. And on Christmas Eve 2019, we got the news that we've been awarded the programme.
So within 4 or 5 months, you went from delivering parcels in your car, upgraded to do it being a van driver, and then fast forward 4 months and you've got a contract with Amazon and launched Couriers.
Yeah, we did, and we did it in a sense of we hit the ground running, because unfortunately it was in the midst of the first lockdown with COVID, and obviously at that time all delivery drivers were key workers. We were the ones delivering all the goods that these poor people couldn't, because they couldn't leave the house. They were on lockdown. You can't leave the house. You can't even sort of like go for a walk at the time on the first lockdown. So we were vital in that time. It was obviously very easy to recruit, because obviously people are on furlough, but it doesn't stop them getting a job for a key worker position. So recruitment was nice and easy. Everyone was at home, so that was nice. And yeah, it was a real learning curve from going from one job that you're settled in to something that's completely out of, we were out the water with it, because we've never done logistics before. So everything we've both done, me in particular, has been self-taught.
Well, it's obviously proven fairly successful with the results that you've had in the last 4 years, and that's fantastic. Now you've got your own awards. Couriers is multi-award winning. We've earned such a lot of respect. And going back to earlier on in your career, when you were going for all these jobs and you were making your way up the ranks, did you always know that you might lead your own business one day and become an entrepreneur, or was that something that took you by surprise?
Took me by surprise. My school years, unfortunately, I suffer from dyslexia. So to be noticed by any of my teachers, especially in secondary school, was extremely difficult. They weren't willing to sit down with me and spend just an extra 5 minutes just explaining the process. My last day at school, this is what, if anything, it powered me through to prove people wrong my whole life. Now it's just second nature, I just brush it off. But when you're a 15, 16-year-old teenage girl, and on your last day at secondary school, and you're lining up for, I will say it, the old bag head teacher, walking down the line and praising all the other children. Oh, I can see you going far, my dear. I can see you being a doctor. I can see you being a vet. I can see... Came to me, and she just looked me dead in the eye and says, all I can see you doing is popping 6 kids out by 6 different fathers and living off the council. Well, this was in the late 80s, where schooling and respect towards pupils was out the window.
So obviously you've taken a lot of positives from that. It's like you say, it's spurred you on, given you that strength to prove people wrong, and you've come such a long way since then. So what would you say to someone else in your situation? Maybe they're a younger person, maybe they struggle with certain things at school, or maybe they're not very confident, or people put them down. What advice would you give a young person in that situation?
In all honesty, the way I see it is life is worth living. You have to live it to what you want to do. No one at the age of 13, 14, 15 or 16 knows what they want to do for a career. And too many schools, in my opinion, this is my opinion, is that they concentrate too much on the academic stuff and not the creative side of people. During COVID, as we well know, millions of people around the world were stuck at home twiddling their fingers, but they ended up being creative enough to make things to sell. And now these people are multi-million pound businesses because they realise that they're more creative than academic. You know, that we need to be more open. The government and schools need to see that each child's an individual. Each child has their own strengths. And if they have weaknesses, build on the strengths they have and not focus on their weaknesses.
Let's take the likes of a couple of people with what they call superpowers. Richard Branson has got dyslexia. Yeah. Stephen Bartlett has been recognised on the ADHD spectrum. That's just the first two that spring to mind. So there's absolutely no reason why anyone listening who thinks they should be held back by it for any reason. You've got to get that idea out of your head and just push on through, haven't you? Definitely.
At the end of the day, find something that you love to do, something that you're passionate about, something that you don't mind learning. May it be anything from gardening through to bricklaying, through to being an electrician. You can do anything if you put your mind to it. We're losing the plumbers, we're losing the bricklayers, we're losing the gardeners, we're losing tradesmen because they're focusing more on big offices and lawyers and stuff, which is fantastic if you want to be that.
So the message there really is to players, don't believe the negative people that might suggest that you can't do it, or the people that try and talk you out of it. The message behind that really is to believe in yourself, set your goals and just go for it.
100%. If you don't have goals, then you end up getting stuck in a rut.
If someone's listening then that is thinking about, starting a business perhaps, what advice would you give to them in the very early stages of a business?
Research. Research is a key thing. Just to make sure that whatever you would like to do is not oversaturated already in the market, because then your uphill struggle will be a real uphill struggle. So sometimes trying to find something niche is really key. And there's some real clever people out there that can just find these niche things. I wish I could find them. And then once you've done your research, don't always rely on family and friends to give opinions, because they'll only tell you what they want you to hear. Sometimes finding a business coach or a mentor can certainly help you understand the footsteps of business. Because at the end of the day, you could make a business, you can do quite well of it, and you can end up not understanding the concepts of tax or banking or customer service or invoicing. Just finding someone that can teach you the very basics of starting up a business is all you need to end up making a huge business.
So you're saying it's best to take advice. Don't try and think you can do it all yourself, and go to the professionals if you need a bit more guidance.
There's no harm in asking for help.
Do you send parcels worldwide? Post and Packing Swindon is your one-stop parcel shop. With a whole range of services from printing, mailbox rentals, mail forwarding and fantastic shipping services to send your parcels anywhere in the world, as well as pick and pack order fulfillment and shipping in any quantity for e-commerce businesses. Visit www.postandpackingswindon.co.uk.
No harm asking for help in any stage of your life, especially in business. As much as Darren and I, we both thought we knew it all. We were self-taught with everything we knew. And then last year, where we got to, we did that just by ourselves. And then I wanted something more. I wanted to get my teeth into something more. So I managed to find somewhere for AI training, I think it was, because I was hoping that would help me with my dyslexia, with writing emails, etc. And from there, we ended up getting onto a mentoring program, and we've flourished ever since we've been with them. And it proves you can teach an old dog new tricks.
So in terms of mapping out your future for the business, are you one of these people that sits down and makes, a 5-year plan, and you're going to get to this point by year 1 and you're going to exit at year 5, or do you just kind of steer the business in the direction that it's sort of going to materialize, and then just sort of see what comes up? What approach do you take?
You do have to have goals, but you have to have realistic goals. I wouldn't say a 5-year plan. I would probably say I look for the year ahead, just because of the amount of chopping and changing that happens in all industries. We just have to make sure that we're always on the ball, making sure that we always supply the customer service that our clients need, and making sure that our drivers are extremely well looked after.
So on the subject of drivers, you're obviously involved with running large teams of drivers, which is a challenge in itself. How on earth do you motivate your team and inspire them and lead them to do a good job and thrive in what they do?
Starting off by being honest with them and being transparent, telling them that ourselves, we've both done the job, so we totally understand the frustrations they may see on day-to-day basis. But the main thing is to praise them and thank them for what they do. If you don't look after your teams, you have no business. So we have to make sure that they get the praise they all deserve. It is an extremely difficult job. People might think delivering parcels is easy. Unless you've done it, you cannot say it's easy. You have to be skilled. You have to drive a large van. Then you've got to think ahead of where you've got to go, where you need to park, not to block the driveways, not to block people in. Reducing the workload of the drivers makes their day more productive, in the sense then our performances and everything else goes up.
There's been some very recent press about attacks on drivers from members of the public, or in certain situations where the public might not be very happy about a situation, not just drivers but also shop workers as well. What's your opinion on this kind of wave of modern attacks on just people just trying to get on and do their jobs?
In all honesty, I'm disgusted. I thought that we were a peaceful world, but it's proven to me now that something's triggered. I believe it's probably from COVID. The lack of socialisation has made people very negative, very angry. And yeah, when our drivers get attacked, and when I say drivers, myself included, I have been attacked while making deliveries. But to attack anyone working, earning, just earning a living, they just want to be able to put food on the table for their children and put a roof over their heads. And then to have to then come into work to be abused for no reason. And then you've got to come back tomorrow and do the same thing and get the same attitude. People just got to understand we're all in the same boat. Everyone's in the same boat. We're all struggling with money. We all got stresses. But we can't lash out at strangers, regardless what you think they're doing. Take a step back, take a deep breath and think, is it worth it? Because the harm you're doing to people affects people mentally. Everyone suffers from some sort of mental health, and our teams certainly do. And we want to make sure that they feel safe in their work environment. Yes, we're not there holding their hand, but they need to know that they've got someone to fall back on.
And on the subject of mental health, in more recent years, that's at the forefront of everybody's mind. Last week's podcast was on the subject of mental health, and I touched a lot on my own experiences and a lot of the processes that I've managed to go through and make some improvements. And what are you doing as a leader to enforce that positive, helpful mindset of your teams?
Rose and I decided that we needed to do something more, so we embarked on a course, and we did a mental health first aider course, and we're certificated in that. And that was vitally important. So much information, more than we thought we needed to know. And that was only done 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and we've already helped 4 of our drivers.
What information does that give you to help someone in a certain scenario that you didn't know before?
Answering the right questions. Everyone knows that everyone says, you ask the question, are you okay? They'll say, fine, yeah, I'm fine. And you ask again and they say they're fine, and then you walk away. It's not about asking the question, it's about watching their body language. especially if there's someone that you know normally quite upbeat, skips when they walk in, but their head's low, shoulders hunched, don't want to give eye contact. That's them having a bad day. So instead of just asking, are you okay? You say, you don't seem very happy. Is there anything I can do to help today? You have to want them to speak to you for us to be able to help them. Obviously, we're not qualified for medication or diagnosis, but it's not about that. It's about learning how you can read body language and just being there to support them and knowing that we are open to conversation. We've always had an open door policy. If anyone's having an issue, just give us a shout. We'll go for a coffee.
That means such a lot in this day and age. And the thing that stands out for me is the fact that it seems to be the little things that matter, noticing the signs, picking up on the body language and just acting on those little signs and just almost offering just a hand or an ear to listen. And, you know, your experiences have proved that does make a massive difference to people, doesn't it?
Certainly does. It's just, I've always remembered the one thing my dad told me. Always have a smile on your face, because if you've got a smile on your face and someone's walking down the road and they're sad, something's happened or they're not happy, but they see a smiling person and you actually make eye contact with that person and smile, you don't have to say anything. But that smile might save a life, because then you've noticed them. This is the thing, people don't notice each other no more. So by making that open gesture, by a smile, eye contact and a relaxed posture, you're not a threat. They're more likely to open up to you, and it could be a complete stranger that talks to you. I've had that before.
Sound advice, and it makes such a difference. I'm really inspired by what you do. Obviously, it's a crowded marketplace. There's a lot of people in the logistics industry. There's a lot of courier companies. I heard an alarming fact the other day that apparently last year, more than one logistics company every day went out of business last year, which is a very sad fact. And it seems to be a sign of the times, with everyone trying to cut corners on costs, and price of stuff seems to be coming down, but the overheads are going up. What makes Dash Couriers different, or what makes Dash Couriers stand out in that marketplace of logistics?
Driver welfare, happy, content drivers that are looked after and respected and inspired will then in turn do exceptional customer service, which in turn then will increase our clients' sales.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It seems to be that there are some of the big players that haven't understood that, or that have missed the point, because perhaps they've grown at such a rate that they've started to take their eye off the ball when it comes to customer service, maybe.
Yes, it does seem to be the case. It's more volume at the cheaper rate, which is fine. We get that, obviously, because you need to make sales. But then putting the pressure on the drivers by increasing their workload, then drivers aren't going to do customer care. So making sure that you reduce the workload. And why? It's because they know Dash has got their backs, and Dash knows that we're looking after their welfare.
If there was people in driving vans and they've got this aspiration that they would like to get into logistics and actually own their own part of it and start their own logistics business. Now, I know this is something that you've mentioned recently, that something that you might like to get into in the near future, where you get involved with actually training people that would like to get into the industry on the back of your experiences, almost, duplicating your business model and how you've helped to grow Dash Couriers, and then using that to help people start their own businesses in logistics. Is there one or two simple tips that you might be able to give someone who's got this aspiration to start their own courier business one day?
Speak to other couriers, speak to other logistics people. Make sure you look after your drivers. Make sure you maintain your vans correctly. And then in the future, if you want, come and collaborate with us. It's all about networking, all about collaboration, because why do we have to be against each other? We collaborate with a lot of other couriers. Work together, not against each other, but do ask questions. As many questions as you want, regardless if they sound silly, because at the end of the day, we're all here to learn.
So hopefully, if you do get involved with this idea in the near future that involves training and inspiring people to get into logistics, that could be something that people could reach out to you about, some of the training programs that you've got planned.
Yep, it's all in process. We are in the process of sorting out a academy, help people that want to start or people that are halfway through their journey and struggling with something. Yeah, it'll be informative, it'll be honest, it'll be transparent, but factual. And they'll have ambience of support from us.
There is a coach for almost everything these days. There's help and guidance in every type of industry, but I think you've spotted a little gap in the market because there isn't really a go-to for someone that wants to get involved in logistics and do it properly. That's the key. You don't want to jump in a van that's 10 years old and do it with dodgy insurance. If you're going to do it properly. So that sounds like it's going to be a great idea. On the odd occasion that you might get a little bit of downtime. So just finishing off then, a couple more questions, but I want to get back to you. What's your idea of a perfect day off?
But my main hobby, and I think probably a lot of people have seen this, is that I'm an avid crocheter. And I love making blankets, toys, flowers. But I was taught by my mum, crochet hook, ball of wool, and I make something out of nothing. No.
I mean, the correct answer would have been to spoil your husband and bring him cups of tea and coffee. But okay, last question for you then. Success. Everyone's idea of success is different, because some people put a figure on it. Some people might say, I think I'm going to be successful when I've made £1 million, or I think I'm going to be successful when I've got a red Ferrari, or whatever it might be. Two questions, I suppose. Do you feel like you've reached that place of success yet? Or if not, what does success look like for you?
I think success myself, I've achieved something out of nothing. And I'm more so after all the judgments over the years I've had. So to me, I've succeeded in proving all those people that bullied me, judged me, completely wrong. So to me, that's my success, is that I've proven them wrong.
Then the feeling of that success is worth any amount of money, isn't it? Just to give you that well-being.
As much as everyone would like the idea of having lots and lots and lots and lots of money, as we all know, money doesn't always bring you happiness. It's what's around you, who you surround yourself with. So having family, friends, a good bunch of work people around you, having hobbies, and just having a laugh.
Good advice, absolutely. Okay, well look, thank you so much for taking some time to tell everyone about your story. I'm sure there's been lots of people that have been inspired, that have learned a lot about you that they probably didn't know in the first place. If anyone wants to get in touch, maybe someone wants to connect with you, or someone wants to talk to you in more detail about your experiences, or even come into the future and do some training with you, what's the easiest way, one or two ways that people can reach you?
Easiest place first will be obviously our website, www.couriers.co.uk. Obviously, you can find me on all the social platforms. A lot of them it will be under Shani Moore, but if you search for Dash, you'll see the connections, and you can just tap on my name and just add friend, connect. I'm happy to be friends with anybody. Anyone who wants a bit of advice, I'm quite happy to sit over a nice cup of tea and have a chat with them. And hopefully in the next few weeks, we'll be sharing our training program.
Shani, thank you so much for joining me on the interview, and thanks for being a guest.
No worries. Thank you very much indeed.
That's all we've got time for today on the podcast. It would be great if you could leave us a review. Maybe you could share it. Maybe you could subscribe. Just spread the word. Let everyone know about the podcast. And we look forward to seeing you on the next one. So thank you for joining us on the Business Stories podcast.